The alien woman was a mystery to everyone, but to one human, she was a key to survival. The first time Lucas Holloway laid eyes on her, she was engaged in an odd battle with a vicious, spiked plant creature. He had just crawled from the wreckage of his maintenance pod after crash landing on an unknown planet. He had spent 30 minutes trying to extract himself from the mangled remains of his craft, surrounded by jagged rocks on the surface of Nara 5, a barren moon far off the beaten path, unmarked and uncharted. The air was barely breathable, the sky a dull, sickly green, and the ground was littered with sharp, jagged stones. The only sign of life was a spiny, carnivorous creature trying to take a bite out of his leg when she appeared, tall, poised, with a ragged green cloak billowing in the toxic winds. She moved with a warrior's grace. Her ears, pointed, radiant, twitched as if tuned to frequencies beyond human comprehension. Without hesitation, she landed a punishing blow to the creature, sending it hurtling away like a discarded rag doll. Lucas blinked in disbelief. He checked his oxygen levels, which were still full. "Well, that means she's real," he muttered, still trying to process the scene. "Are you injured?" Her voice was cold and smooth, like a polished blade. "Emotionally, yes," he replied, clutching his side. "Physically, a few cracked ribs, bruised ego, and I think my spleen's taking a vacation in the wrong place." She stared at him for a long moment, then blinked once. "You're human." "Last time I checked," he grinned, though hurt. "Name's Lucas Holloway. Professional crash survivor. Engineer. I make a mean grilled cheese in zero gravity." She didn't laugh, not even a twitch. Instead, her ears gave a small flicker. "I am Kale of Aldona," she said flatly. "Exile, huh?" Lucas struggled his feet, wincing at the pull of gravity. "Well, Kale of Aldona, former exile, thank you for saving me. You're officially my favorite person here." Granted, that's not saying much. Kale didn't respond, merely turned and began walking toward a rocky ridge where odd bioluminescent moss spread like veins across the stone. Lucas, realizing he had no choice but to follow if he didn't want to end up another predator's snack, limped after her. "So, do you live here?" he asked, limping slightly as he caught up. "Is this some kind of alien camping trip?" "I was banished," she answered, stepping over a crack in the rock effortlessly. "Yeah, I know that feeling," Lucas replied, grinning wryly. "I failed astronaut training because of a reckless disregard for safety protocols and a very poorly timed jetpack incident. Long story." Kale stopped and looked back at him. "You're injured. You should rest." "I will," Lucas wheezed, just as soon as I stopped feeling like I was run over by a vending machine. The cave she led him to was small but cozy, warm with soft bioluminescence and the dim glow of crystal formations embedded in the walls. Kale settled by a shallow pool of steaming water. She sat like a statue, her posture rigid and her hands folded in her lap. Lucas collapsed onto a nearby rock with a grunt. "You don't happen to have a first aid kit, do you?" he asked. "Or maybe a medbot?" I'd settle for a space popsicle. Kale reached into her cloak and pulled out a small canister, twisting the top. A sharp, chemical scent filled the air as she sprayed it onto his side. He yelped in pain. "That's a biostimulant," she explained. "It accelerates the healing process." "Feels more like it's accelerating pain," Lucas muttered, his body tensing. Kale didn't respond. Her long ears shimmered faintly as she stared at him. "It is working," she said simply. Lucas eyed her suspiciously. "You sure you're not some bounty hunter sent to finish me off slowly?" She didn't answer. Her silence felt almost contemplative, as though she were evaluating his worth, but not in a way that seemed threatening. More observant. Later, after he had recovered enough to stay awake without dying mid-sentence, she spoke again. "I was born without the luminar. My people consider it essential." "That's..." Lucas paused. "The luminar? Is it like some kind of psychic ability?" "Yes, a shared connection among my people," she replied. Lucas sat up slightly. "Oh, I get that. I was once the only guy at an engineering seminar who didn't know what a graviton integrator was. Still don't. Just smile, nod, and make up acronyms." She didn't respond. Her ears twitched again. "You are strange," she said, the hint of something almost like an approval in her voice. "Thank you," Lucas said with a grin. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in days." Outside, the second sun of Nara, 5, started to rise, casting everything in a dim, sickly glow. Kale retrieved a slender, ancient-looking staff from behind a stone. "We are not safe here," she said flatly. "Predators are near." "Of course they are," Lucas sighed, rubbing his ribs. "I finally meet a woman who talks to me, and the universe decides to ruin it." "Romance?" she asked, not understanding the reference. "Never mind," he muttered. "Lead the way, Space Lady." As the ship's engines hummed softly to life, Lucas couldn't help but feel the shift in the air. The Rift Echo, a vessel older than most civilizations, had become something more than just a ship. It was now a companion, an ally that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Whatever strange forces were at play, whatever bond had been forged between him and this alien technology, it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was something deeper, something that whispered a potential of new beginnings in the face of uncertainty. He glanced over at Kale, whose long ears twitched with every subtle shift in the ship's vibrations, her eyes glimmering with the knowledge of things that Lucas couldn't yet comprehend. She was no longer just the enigmatic stranger who would save him from an alien predator. No, she had become something else, a partner in an adventure that neither of them could have anticipated. Exiled from her home, cast away like an ancient relic, she had found herself bound to a man who was equally adrift, a human stranded in the void of space, with nothing but a shattered past and a future that seemed to stretch out into infinity. And yet, for the first time in a long while, Lucas didn't feel entirely alone. The universe, with all its dangers and uncertainties, had revealed something he hadn't expected, a connection, fragile but undeniable, that tied him to this woman, to the ship, and to a future that was waiting to be shaped by their hands. "Where are we going now?" he asked, unable to hide the curiosity in his voice. Kale didn't look at him as she adjusted the navigation controls. "To the first seed," she replied, her voice steady but carrying the weight of something profound. "The place where the past and future of my people intersect. It's where the Luminar was born, where they learned to separate thought from flesh." Lucas absorbed her words, his mind whirling. "Great. So we're going to meet the place that taught your people to become, well, whatever you are." "Yes," she said, her voice soft. "It's more than that. The seed is where the balance of everything shifts. It's where choices are made, choices that affect entire civilizations. It's where we change what we were and what we will be." Lucas shook his head, his thoughts a jumble. "Well, if we're going to meet the heart of an entire species, I think I need to know a little more. What exactly am I supposed to do with all of this?" Kale glanced at him for a moment, her lips curling into the faintest of smiles. "You're not just here to witness history, Lucas. You're here to shape it." The seed recognizes potential. It recognizes what could be, not just what is. The ship surged forward, its engines screaming through the dense mist of the nebula, weaving between the shifting colors of cosmic storms. Time seemed to fold around them as they entered deeper into the unknown, a vast chasm where light and matter twisted like a living thing. As they approached Echo Prime, the core of this strange reality, Lucas couldn't help but feel the weight of everything pressing against him. The ship, Kale, the seed. Everything seemed to be pushing him towards something greater, something that existed beyond the scope of his understanding. It was no longer just about surviving the crash or finding a way back home. It was about discovering what lay beneath the surface of everything, what connected them all, human and alien alike. "Think we're ready?" he asked, his voice quieter now, as if acknowledging the enormity of the moment. Kale nodded. "We will be," she said simply, "when the time comes." And then, as they docked at Echo Prime, an ancient, sentient structure that hummed with a life older than the stars themselves, Lucas stepped out into the unknown. The seed that had been waiting, watching, pulsed with energy, and he felt it in his bones. This wasn't just a relic of an ancient past. It was a doorway to a future that he had never imagined. He wasn't just a survivor anymore. He was a bridge between worlds, between the past and the future. In that moment, as the Rift Echo drifted silently into the heart of this cosmic mystery, Lucas Holloway realized it had come further than anyone could have predicted. What began as a crash landing had transformed into something far grander, something that stretched beyond the stars and the limits of time itself. With Cale by his side, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, because in the end, they had one thing that no one else could take away: the power to shape their own future. And for the first time in his life, Lucas didn't feel afraid. Instead, he felt alive in a way he never had before. He didn't need to fix the universe. All he had to do was be a part of it. The Rift Echo moved forward, its engines purring softly, as they ventured into the great unknown together. A man and an exile, a ship and a destiny, and a universe, vast and mysterious, waiting to be explored.